Okay. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. We might have another one or two wander in, but I want to introduce Grant Fullen. He's from Wise. He's a ham radio enthusiast, amateur radio enthusiast. And when I was looking for somebody to teach this session, I contacted a buddy of mine who works in hazmat, and I said, "Can you recommend an amateur radio operator who might be able to cover the basics with us?" And he didn't hesitate. He said, "You might want to contact Grant Fullen." So Grant, I appreciate you joining us tonight. And I know ham radio is something that I've been fascinated with, and I've entertained the thought of pursuing my license and learning a little more about it. But maybe this will kind of push me over the edge and kind of encourage some of us in that direction. So, Grant, I'm going to turn it over to you.
All right, thanks, Philip. As Philip said, my name is Grant Fullen. I'm an amateur radio enthusiast. He's asked me to put together a few little information here for tonight. I put together just a little PowerPoint presentation, hopefully to maybe cover a few points, and you can learn a little bit more about what it takes and what you need, and a little bit about ham radio. Okay, I guess I'll start off. What is ham radio? Well, years ago, it started off with a simple spark gap device, maybe like, operators sending telegraphs. Maybe you could think of that a little, and it was Morse code. And that's kind of the beginnings of it. That particular mode, it was pretty messy. And as it was amateur radio, but as time went on, the reason why we have the name ham or hams, it was actually a derogatory remark. What it was, guys in the city would be trying to, do a little communication between each other. Well, they didn't realize it, but because that spark gap, as messy as it was, and it would actually interfere with radio stations and TV stations or whatever it may be at the time anyway. So, them guys would contact them guys and they would call them hams, meaning it a bad thing. So ham's just like, okay, we're hams. We adopted it. We loved it. But it's amateur radio or ham radio. That's where they got the name ham radio. And, it's a real good thing. There's a lot of electronics involved, a lot of communication, local. Of course, when I usually say local, I don't mean like in your town. That's more around the United States. But you'll learn a little bit more about 2-meter, 440. That's, that is really local in your town. And if you're doing simplex or duplex, HF, high frequency operation, it's, you can sit here and talk to people in Texas or wherever, like I'm in Virginia here. And that's what, we consider that more local. It's quite easy to take your rig that does 100 watts, and depending on what time of day it is and what frequency you're on, I mean, it's quite easy to talk, down in South America and over in Europe. And I've worked, gosh, you could look at my log online. I've worked a lot of countries around the world. I'd like to do a little bit more work in China. I ain't done a whole lot of work in China, but anyway, besides that, let me see where I'm at. Let me just pay attention here. Yeah, so yeah, it's fun and it's educational, and you meet a lot of cool people. And that's a little bit about what is ham radio and the modes on it. I'll go into that just a little bit more. Hold on, let me go to the next slide here. Yeah, types of conversations. Once you make your technician's license, you'll get on 2-meter or 440 repeaters doing duplex, and you can learn how to do simplex point to point. And the types of things is, they just call it, a rag shoe. That's kind of what I'm doing with you right here. We're just sitting here, except you guys are not talking back, but sitting here talking about whatever, whoever. There's contests that go on. Those are the types of things that go on, and that's a little bit different. There's all kinds of different contests around the world to promote, ham radio and getting out and making contacts around the world and stuff. When you start getting on HF, high frequency, you'll start tuning in and tuning around, listening. You'll see that there's, formal nets. It may be a net, the Friendly Bunch net, every Thursday night at 9 p.m., you'll log in. And example, my call is November Foxtrot 1 Juliet. So when they say, looking for check-ins, and I may give my call, November Fox 1 Juliet, and they'll note me down, and they maybe have a particular topic. That's kind of formal nets type thing. There's the informal nets where they'll just have, they'll get together you and your friends or whoever may want to have a net at some frequency at a certain time and talk about whatever. Really good folks in ham radio like anywhere else. You'll find everything from people, church groups to technicians repairing stuff. I mean, it's just like it is anywhere else. A lot of good things like that. You can set up your ham radio stations anywhere, and I mean anywhere, from little hand talkies, just like a little walkie-talkie you would think of, to portable HF stations. Take you some wire, throw it up in a tree or whatever, or some little easy portable setups. I mean, you can sit there and you can start doing a lot of work. They have a lot of good like parks on the air. That's people set up in parks, and they'll have little, it's not a contest, but it's just a recreational thing, you know, mountains on the air, you know, stuff like that. Islands on the air, you'll contact a bunch of different islands, and you know, things like that. Anyway, there's lots of different ways to do portable work in ham radio, and a lot of different equipment. I mean, you can get into it and buy used equipment, which is probably what I would recommend to you. Not your little your 2-meter stuff. I mean, you can buy a Bofang little transceiver, a little hand talkie for, I don't know, somewhere around $30-35 shipped to you. If you make your technician license, you know, that's a great place to start. But besides that, you can, once you start getting into HF equipment, it's like anything else. It's like home stereos and like TVs. I mean, you can get a lower price points to, I mean, tens of thousands of dollars in in equipment and antennas or whatever. So I mean, there's something for everybody for your budget. You can get into it. It's nothing out of your reach. Here's an example. The next screen. This is an example of a couple of transceivers. A gentleman's home station there. You'll see he's got a computer screen. He'll have he's watching a spot in network. He's logging all of his contacts, and you'll log stuff either if you're working contacts, or if we're talking to each other, you'll give your call and you'll write down a log. Everybody uses, well, I won't say everybody, but a lot of people use electronics, QRZ, a couple different places for your logbooks online like it. But you can keep a paper log if you wish. I mean, it's, you know, you can do it either way you like that. But that's just an example there of, you know, a little station set up so you can do some work. Lots of different modes and stuff you can do. I'll talk about a little bit about that more in a minute. Let's see, female operators. There's a lot more female operators now than there used to be. I hear a lot more females on the air. You know, everybody gets in ham radio for different, you know, different reasons. Like me, I'm into more electronics and stuff. You know, I'll do diagnostic board level repair, working on equipment. So that part for me, like building antennas and stuff like that, basic stuff like that, you can do. There's kind of something for everybody. Even if you just want to, you know, get a system set up and, you know, just operate and talk to people and have fun meeting people and talking about different things. That's something to do. But yeah, I do see a lot more female operators. I encourage everybody, you know, to try to learn a little bit about ham radio and get into it. I don't know if you've ever seen Last Man Standing, but Tim Allen, you know, he's a ham radio operator in that show. I've actually worked some of those guys that actually working with the show before. They'll have a little thing and they'll send out a little email. And anyway, I've worked some of those guys. But anyway, it's I'm glad to see that someone put in something like that, and more, you know, in Hollywood and TV shows and places like that. It's a pretty good light on ham radio, and there's a lot of things you can use it for. We was discussing earlier before we come in, before everybody else got here, about example of people doing these runs across the mountain or cycling events and setting up check-in stations, because sometimes cell signal, you know, it's not good. It's not got really good coverage around the mountains here, and you can set up, you know, ham radio operators. We can get in there and help, you know, just talk back and forth and make sure everyone's safe, things like that. And who's a typical ham? And you'd be surprised. I mean, people, I mean, like me, I work in a body shop. I'm a body and frame technician. That's what I do for a living. But, you know, I'm a ham radio operator. There's all different. I mean, I was trying to think of the youngest ham. Oh, I'd hate to tell you wrong. I don't know if he was 11, 12. Anyway, I mean, there's kids all up to, you know, hams that's been around, you know, for a while, you know, and I encourage everybody to get out and learn a little bit about it. Let's see here. Why do you need a license? It's the Federal Communication Commission. It's once you learn a little bit, study a little bit, and get some help and learn a few things. It's they give you a call sign, like I don't know, in Bristol, a local channel I watch is WCYB Channel 5. So you know they're a commercial station. We're considered amateur operators, but we still have to be licensed just like they do through the FCC. Ours is governed a little bit different in Part 97, but we still have to have a call sign. Like, you know, mine's November Foxtrot 1 Juliet and F1J. So when I, you know, if I'm talking to someone every 10 minutes, of course you'll learn, I'm not going to get into a lot of that. You know, every 10 minutes I have to identify this is NF1J with, you know, NF1 B or whoever it may be. You have to identify yourself. A handy thing to know is if you're a ham radio operator around the world, you at least have to know enough English to give your call sign. So I've made a lot of good contacts around the world, but I could hardly, you know, not hardly understand anything, but enough to get their call sign. And so an official contact is if I say November Fox 1 Juliet, you give your example call sign back to be, you know, November Fox 1 Bravo. And as long as we understood each other, then I can log that in a log. That's a contact. You know, if you can't understand the full call, then, you know, you can't log it. But that's what, you know, contacts is. You know, but anyway, the FCC, before I get too much off topic there, you have to take a test. Test is $15. I'm actually a volunteer examiner, but I'm licensed through ARRL to do that, to actually get together with a team of hams and administer tests to folks. And after this is done, if anyone ever has any questions or stuff, I'll try to put my email up here and y'all can contact me. And we do go to places like, we go to the library and different places, Big Stone, Wise, around. We do try to, you know, help everyone as much as we can. And this is all volunteer basis for us. So, you know, we try to work with everybody the best as we can. But anyway, yeah, you need to get licensed through the FCC because without it, you can't get on air. And if you do, there's actually big tens of thousands of dollar fines for people that do things like that. Not very good. That's just where it starts out at. Let me get a little drink of water here. All right, let me go to the next one. Yeah, what are some other ways ham radio and hams communicate? Well, there's a bunch of different ways. What I was telling you earlier about the different modes, you know, Morse Code, CW, that's constant wave or continuous wave rather. And that's, you know, if you work in code, if you want to learn how to work that, you can still work it. There is a lot of hams that's doing CW. And if you have a frequency, I'll give you an example, 20 meters, 14 megahertz, around 14.75 megahertz, you'll get in RIDI and Morse code through there. You'll learn all about that the more you study that. But anyway, Morse code, phone, that's when you're talking with of course I use a desk microphone here, like, you know, this on the rig I use on ICOM I got. That's considered phone. Digital, I believe I was talking to Philip there earlier, but digital, I got my computer interfaced and to my rig and I use software, and there's a bunch of different softwares out there to do this, but I can sit there and talk. I can send a picture, I can send a file, I can receive it, I can sit there and talk all over your radio waves. So, I mean, that's just another mode, you know, RIDI, PSK. There's a bunch of new ones people come up with. And those don't take as much as wattage, like, you know, 50, 100 watts if you're doing a phone, depending on the frequency, what time of day. Yeah, you need that. But some of the CW, you don't need as much power. It's often done at, you know, 2 watts, 3 watts, 5 watts, 10 watts. Same way as some of these RIDI, PSK, and other modes. It don't take as much for that type of mode to get through the atmospheres, you know, E layer, F layer, etc. That's a whole nother thing to get into. I was trying to keep this a little bit short. Anyway, bunch of different modes. Slow scan video, like we're doing a video right here, I can actually broadcast. There's a certain frequency range on each band, but anyway, I can broadcast a slow scan video, or I can watch someone doing it. So there's lots of different modes and a lot of fun ways to transmit and receive and communicate with other hams. Let me see here. Do you have to learn Morse code? No, they dropped this requirement several years ago, and that used to be a stumbling block to people, you know, learning that Morse code, because you had to do so many words per minute. That was a minimum. So no, you don't have to have Morse code to do that. We're going to get more information, or the best ways to learn about it is online. I got it posted here. ARRL has got an 800 number down there, 1-800-32 new ham. But anyway, online, QRZ.com. That's QRZ.com. That's a great place where the tests are. There's several places out there. But if you study your technicians, once you can make an account with that, you don't need to have a cost on. You can make your account without it. So once you make your account, you can actually go in and under resources and start practicing your technician test. So there's 3 tests: technician, general, and your advanced. Mine went blank on me there. Yeah. But anyway, your technician test gives you privileges on 2 meters and 440, and you get some HF. I'm trying to think. It's around on 10 meters is all. I think it's 10. Just let me see, 28.300 up to 28.500. I think. Anyway, you can learn more about that when you study. But that's a great place. You got some HF privileges. 2 meter 440 is cheap to get in, like I say, and you can get a little one of these little bow things. $35 shipped to you, where you can start getting on there that way. But QRZ, they have a excellent place of resources there. You can practice them tests. I think I'd have to look. It's like technician test, like a pool of 400, 450 questions. So you're actually just sitting there studying, and it shows you, true or false each one, and where you're weak at, you can go back and look and just study only the areas that you need. And that's just one small resource. There's plenty of places you can get books. YouTube's got free courses if you want to watch videos, or both. But I recommend, if you're doing those tests, once you start making about 70 to 75 consistent, like 3 or 4 days in a row, you can pass the test. At that time, you can start looking around who's giving tests. There's some in Bristol, some over in, I'm not familiar with Kentucky exactly, who's doing what over there. But anyway, and here in Virginia and Wise, in this area, like I say, we get together and we try to set up testing sessions for people. With the COVID, we haven't done nothing since our last testing session was in, right before all this COVID in March, I think, or something or so. But I think we're trying to get back where we can set up to help people like that. But anyway, ARRL is a good place to start. That number is a good place to start. ARRL.com is their website. There's a lot of good information. A lot of people help teach you and give you advice. But it's not that hard to sit there and study for that test. And once you start making 70, 75, you find your place and take it, and you get your license. Usually, most people usually do one at a time. I have seen guys come in and take their technician and then turn around and take their HF and pass them. I have seen, it's been a while, but I have seen a gentleman come in one time, and he studied for a while, and he took his technician and his general and his extra. I'm sorry, did I say advanced? That was used to be another, they dropped that advanced. It's just the technician, the general, and extra. I'm sorry, extra, yeah, those 3. But anyway, I've seen him took all 3 of them at one time and passed it. So a lot of fun things to do with ham radio. If you're like me, when I was looking to get into it, it took me a while before I bumped into somebody that there was a club over in Russell County, Virginia, and put me in contact with them. And then from there, it was a lot easier for me. But like I say, call that number, go to ARRL website. If you wonder anything about it, go to YouTube. Everybody likes YouTube. Start punching in ham radio. You'll start seeing guys, operators, this and that and other, to give you an idea if you're interested or not. So I think once you get into it, it's like anything else. It's not something that you're probably going to be doing like 24 hours a day or every evening or something other. But after you get started, get set up, it's just something you can do once in a while at the very least. So yeah, this last screen, that's QRZ.com, where I posted that. And like I was telling you about, YouTube, really good places to study and watch and learn about, different things of ham radio. Building antennas. A lot of guys got excellent videos about, you build your own antenna. When you get an HF rig, you don't have to buy no antenna. A little bit of wire, a little bit of math, a little bit of soldering, hooking a few things up, and you're in there. So, a basic dipole you could build, and I believe anybody could watch one of these videos. Anybody could build one probably in 2 to 3 hours. So it's not that hard. Of course, plenty of places to buy stuff, very affordable, different wire antennas, all kinds of different. I don't want to go off and get into too much of that end of it, because you can learn a lot by watching YouTube, different, Google and stuff like that. But anyway, that's about, that's about it for my presentation. Like I believe I mentioned, it's $15 for a test. One of them little bow things you can, pretty cheap to get into. Last little thing, I had a few thoughts where to get equipment, like QRZ.com. You can get used equipment there. Besides that, you can start Googling Yazoo, ICOM, ham radio equipment, bunch of different big places to get your equipment. some things you may want to have ham radio for. You might want to have your emergency backup, just like we was talking earlier. Have your little 2-meter rig. You can do point-to-point simplex type deal. If you have HF in your car set up, then if communications are down, you can still, talk pretty much wherever you want, depending on what your antenna is. And in your closer ranges, I believe I mentioned 2 meters and 440. That's going to be around town here, very, very, very close. And then local coverage, US and HF. You got around a lot of antennas, depending on how you set this up. I mean, you got 1,500, 2,000 miles, easy, just around the US. I've talked to, I don't know, I've worked Israel, Russia, South Africa, all around the world on 100 watts and a wire even. So that's just a general setup. I just wanted to hopefully hit some points, and I can take some questions now. Let me hit my stop share. I'll take some questions if anyone's interested.
Hey Grant, a question I had, and this is kind of what I had in mind as one practical use, and you can tell me if it would work or if it wouldn't work. But I kind of thought about if I could get my tech license with as many people in my household would do the same. That my sons are always they're deer hunting somewhere and you can't reach them by cell phone, or they're out at the lake somewhere. Just if nothing else, just a household communication tool that we can communicate with when cell phones just don't work. Is that a practical application for that kind of thing? Or
It is like I say, if they study and make at least their technician license. A lot of repeaters, I bet I could go out my vehicle out there on a repeater. I can hit repeaters, gosh, over in Kentucky, over in Tennessee. I mean, just sitting in my driveway. So there's really good coverage that's available to you where you live at. And, out in the woods, wherever, the little HTs, you can also get you some little bit better antenna to throw up in a tree real quick and just unplug like the longer antenna you have, unplug it and plug one a little bit better one up in the tree and get even more of a better chance of capturing the signal or getting out, especially if, for whatever reason, may not be no cell signal out there or whatever.
All right. Okay. Thank you.
Hey Grant, minimum to get started, to put you on the spot, what would you recommend? Not necessarily brands or whatever, but even if it comes down to brands, what would you recommend for somebody? I think all of us on here, other than you, probably doesn't have the license, but we have an interest. What do you recommend on getting it started?
Well, I'll tell you what, like I was trying to say earlier, there's price ranges, a little cheaper, more expensive. I would recommend really to get you a little 2-meter handheld HT, one of them little Bowfangs, to get started and get into your technician's class. From there, if you really like and enjoy talking on 2 meters and the folks that's on the repeaters there, you may want to upgrade to a little bit more of a mobile type unit that's going to have more output power. These little rigs, you can get them from 3 watts, 5 watts, 8 watts, or something like that on the little HTs. But, if you really enjoy 2 meters and you like a lot, maybe upgrade, and you can get these little TYT jobs for $150, little mobile rigs, but they'll put up like 75 watts, a lot more output power for you. That's just for 2 meters getting you started out. HF, I would try to find me a used piece of equipment. Now, if you're really going to study and you say, hey, I like this. I've got my technician license. I'm going to like HF. And high frequency is just, it's more of a broad, like I say, the antennas used there, you're going to start communicating around the US, around the world. If you have the money, the ICOM 7300, if you like ICOM, you can get that with a rebate now for around $1,100. Phenomenal rig, phenomenal price. The Yaesu FTDX 1200, about the same price range, $1,200, $1,300 if you want to go with a brand new rig. But you can go on QRZ.com and you can search around. There's a couple other places, and you can buy used equipment. I mean, you might get you a little older, like an ICOM 735. Basic HF rig, you may pick it up $400, $300, and at least if you're not sure what you want, and that will get you enough, your foot in the door enough to where you start saying, yeah, I want to do this. Well, I want to do digital. Well, instead of me interfacing this box to my rig, maybe I want a newer one that the USB cable plugs into my computer. You're going to have to try a few things, but for not a whole lot of money, you can still get in it pretty reasonable.
Thank you. All on getting started, let's back up. What do you recommend the first thing if we have an interest in it right now? If you're talking to 10 or 12 people right now. If we have an interest in it, what's the first thing that we need to do to go down this path to get our license?
Go to QRZ.com and study that technician's class test. And there's a lot more resources available, but I use that one a lot, and a lot of people seem to find it very helpful. Go sign up an account at QRZ.com, then go into your resources tab, and you'll see that technician test and study that and study it. Because without getting a license, you won't need any equipment if you don't have a license.
So basically, what we need to do is go ahead and sign up, start studying. I presume is the material free? Is there a charge?
It is. There's no charge. It's free at QRZ.com, and it has they keep that updated with the latest question pool. So, and I believe that last one was good till I forget. I have to look, but anyway, yeah, it's always updated. So if you're studying that technician test there, it's going to be what you're studying for what's going to be on your test, and it is free to you. There's no charge for it at all.
Okay. And then I guess the next thing we need to do is find somebody who will administer the test.
Absolutely.
Does that have to be some sort of thing that's scheduled, or is it something that you pick the phone up and if you know somebody who is an administrator, can they give it to you? How's that work?
Okay, yeah, there's a liaison. Angie's one that I know. I work with here. She lives in Clintwood, but she will actually contact like ARRL. That's the people who we give this test through. And she'll contact them and say, I'm going to have this test here. Here's the date and time and everything. So what we'll do is, let's say, example, you and a friend or two wants to have a test, contact me. And I'll try to give everybody my email here. Contact me, and I'll contact her, and we'll try to get a test station set up for a month or two. And then we'll try to make sure the closest place for everybody can come. You know, we test in libraries. We gave a test in a little steak place there in Norton. One day we was in the back. No one was back there. They let us go back there and administer a test. So yeah, we'll try our best to help to come to you or set up something that's good for everybody to help get you tested.
Grant, I assume there wouldn't be any problem with state lines. Like if we had, because
Nope.
we got people here from both states. If we want to do one, say in Whitesburg, that would cover all of this stuff.
That would cover it. It's not a problem. So as soon as she sets that test time and date in the location, and she's the liaison. She handles setting all that up. But it helps to know where everybody lives at. You know, if we got 2 or 3 or 4 people, so we'll try to pick somewhere that's good for everybody, so no one person won't have to travel really, really far.
And I think you answered this question I had. You said I was going to ask if there's a minimum age, but you said just as long as somebody's able to take that technician test, they're good.
If you can take it and pass it, you're good to go.
Good deal.
And also, let's see, what you said there was $15 for the license, and It's updated. Did I read somewhere every 4 or 5 years you have to update that?
10 years. Your license is good to 10 years.
Okay.
And it's here's probably a question I should cover that I didn't even think about when I was taking. Anyway, if you take a test today, this evening, and you pass it, you're not going to get a call sign or nothing. It takes the FCC. Usually we mail them out as quick as we can. If it's on a weekend, which we give a lot of tests on weekend, it's Monday. But usually it's a couple weeks. But once you go into the FCC, and you can type in ham radio or amateur radio FCC. Once you go to find that website, as soon as your name shows up in that database, you know, Grant Fullen, Wise, Virginia, and they'll give you a call sign, you're good to go at that point. Then you can actually get on the air.
Now, I have an interesting question here. You know, call signs. I presume that they give those out, but you know, Virginia, I know, seems to be the home of vanity plates. And can you pick a call sign if it's available?
Okay, first, when you get a technician's class, you'll be assigned the next available call sign. I'll give you an example. I was licensed in 2014. Mine was Kilo Mike 4, Bravo, Oscar, Bravo. Everybody thought my name was Robert. They thought B-O-B, Bob. They thought, and I kept that about a year. So then, yeah, I just went and I seen some available. Mine's a 1x2, which is November. 2x1. November Foxtrot. That's 2, and then the by the one is your designated. Anyway, if it's a vanity, it don't matter because one is up in. Where am I looking at? One's up in New Hampshire, Massachusetts, up in Connecticut. So, but yeah, I applied and got a Vanity Cost sign.
And you mentioned something there that's interesting. I have learned as well within the last year that there are different regions, and the regions have different numbers. And you
Absolutely.
mentioned the one being up in the Northeast.
Before Vanity calls like that, actually, if a ham gave you his call and his was an 8, let's see, or a 7, yeah, let me look, 6 is in California. So if I would have gave example, November Foxtrot 6 Juliet, you would have known I was in California. But now they have Vanity Calls. So see, mine's from up in New Hampshire and Massachusetts, so you can't really tell that anymore just by that.
And you had a question in the chat box. Bequita want to know if it costs more to get a vanity.
It does.
Okay.
It's just a little bit more expensive, and it's not very much. Wait a minute. It might not be. I'd have to check on that for you guys. It may be the same price, but you have to pay it again. You have to pay that $15 again.
Okay.
It's been a while since I'd got mine, but that is a good question. I'll try to check into that. But I'm pretty sure you just have to pay $15. You apply for it. There's a process you go through. You can do it online or fill out paperwork. Anyway, but once it's approved, you pay for it and you get your vanity. It's not cost up.
Grant, another question, I guess, or comment question that kind of comes back to what we've worked on, which is basic preparation over the last 3 weeks with these Zoom sessions. I know a few years ago there was one of the islands in the Atlantic that got hit hard by a hurricane, literally lost all power whatsoever. And the only thing left in communication-wise was the ham radio operators, and they were able to communicate. And I know a Red Cross employee actually told me that was the only communication on the island and to the island and off the island. And how important is this day and time? I know we're dealing with a lot of social media, and I mentioned earlier that it was the original social media. How important here in 2020, even with all else going on, how important is ham radio?
I think it's more important than ever. And like you're talking about, that's been it's the one I'm thinking about a couple of years ago. I forget which one. I was actually doing a relay. I volunteered my time a little bit on 20 meters a couple weekends because different antennas, different areas, different elevations, you can get out and receive. I don't want to get into the whole thing here, but I was accepting relays for people that was trying to do contacts. In other words, I might be able to hear them and I could talk to, let's say, net control, and net control couldn't hear them. I would relay their message for them like that. And there's a lot of volunteers that do that, but it don't matter if it's on islands or here in the U.S. or wherever. I mean, when comms go down, communication goes down, I mean, that's a problem. And just being able to get up and have people in place. Oh, wait a minute. We can talk here. Oh, we can talk to the next county. Oh, wait, we can talk we can talk to Tennessee and Virginia. Oh, wait a minute. We can get this figured out. It's really important. I mean, I know we got computers and there's internet and cell phone tower and stuff, but if you ever have like us, a hurricane come through somewhere, even here, wherever, I mean, it's going to take down stuff for a while. And I think it's more important than ever. I'd like to see everybody be able to make their license and get on and play and learn and be able to communicate.
Good deal. Any other questions for Grant? And Grant, you said you might be able to share your email if you didn't mind doing that.
It's just my name at yahoo.com, GRANTFULLEN. I'm on top of the chat at yahoo.com.
Okay.
And y'all can contact me with any questions anytime. I'll get back as soon as possible to you. Especially if you've been testing or something other, give me a heads up if you've been testing for a while, because like I say, we have to. She has to file that with the ARRL like a month ahead of time, so we can.
Okay.
If you study and you say, I think I'm gonna be ready here the next 2 or 3 weeks, we'll try to go ahead and get a test session Oh, I was going to tell you, ARRL, their website, there's actually a little, I forget where it's at, a menu, and you can actually go and look for testing sessions around you, put your zip code in and stuff. That's an
Okay.
excellent, that website is an excellent resource of different things like that. Oh, Hamfest, that's just, it's like, it's something for hams. You'll have if you got used equipment you want to buy, sell, or trade, and there's a lot of vendors that set up all ICOM, yeah, all these MFJ, all this ham radio stuff. They'll set up there with booths with the latest, newest stuff. I mean, there's some pretty popular ones. We ain't had none in a while, but some. Joe was telling me the other day that they Pigeon Forge this weekend. They're actually going to have that one in Tennessee. I forget the name of that club over there. So they're going to let them get together in Tennessee over there.
Okay.
But that's what a ham fest is. If you hear, oh, I'm going to a ham fest. What's the ham fest? It's like a big flea market and a big store for all things ham radio related.
Oh, I bet I can imagine all the equipment that probably shows up at those.
One of the old things a lot of the older hams tell you, they'll say, do you know what ham radio stands for? What ham stands for? And you say, what? And they'll say, home, always on mortgage. Like I told you, you can get cheaper equipment, or I mean, you can get tens of thousands of dollars in antennas and gear. I mean, there's all kinds of, it's just kind of what you want to do with it and what you want to put into it.
Yeah. Well, I know Woody commented that I don't know if you can see the chat box. He commented that he's going to start studying, and Dustin said, "Thank you for the information. Very useful."
Great, yeah, guys, anytime.
Informative, and Quita enjoyed this session. Thanks so much for the information, and I'm going to go to that QRZ site and see what I can do. This has kind of renewed my interest in getting a license.
Here you go. I'll put it in the chat room in case anyone's not needed there. Yeah, I mean, there's several sites out there and a lot of resources, but that's a real good one. And you can sign up for free. You don't need to call. You can omit the call right now, and then you can start studying those exams. And there's a lot of forums on there. If you got any questions, you'll see general areas. Just go right on there and start talking to people. And you'll find most ham operators, they're really good folks. A lot of them, they'll help you any way they can.
Good deal. Well, Grant, thank you very much. I appreciate it.
Anytime. Y'all guys,
been very helpful.
You can email me. I'll get back to you as soon as possible.
Thanks, Grant. We really appreciate it. Awesome stuff. I'm like Phil. You've renewed my interest as well. So
a little bit of studying and $15, and you got the first step out of the way.
I need to just break down and fulfill the interest.
If you do study, guys, if you do make your technicians, I would recommend just keep studying, get that general. Once you make that one, go ahead and get that extra. Now the extra is a little, it's a little more technical, a little more involved. You'll have stuff with sample circuits. That's the extra. And what those give you guys, like your tech, I better explain that real quick. The reason why there's different classes you get. Technician, it gives you like 2 meter and 440. I told you a little bit on HF. That's a little bit, that's all your privileges there. Now, if you want to start opening up and get on 20 meters, 40 meters, 80 meters, 160 meters, etc., you want to make your HF. That's that second test. Once you get that, you get a whole other set of frequencies and places you can go and operate modes. Now, finally, there's an advance, and that's like from one edge of our available frequencies to other in each band, you've got full access. So it's like anything else. In order to get that full access and all the privileges, it's a little bit harder to test. And it covers more, you'll have what's an op amp, operational amplifier, what's a MOSFET, metal oxide semiconductor, field effect transistor. It's a little more, but it's just studying, guys. It is just studying. You study like anything else and you can pass it. Really, you can. Anybody, I think, that puts their mind to it can do it.
All right. Appreciate that. Jeremy, you have any closing comments?
I don't, unless you just want to cover Thursday. Thursday wraps up our preparation segment of the 6-1. So,
well, Thursday will be. I'm going to be covering alternative and long-term water solutions. We'll talk just briefly about springs, cisterns, and then dwell a little bit on wells and managing those wells and keeping your water supply safe. So that's what we'll be talking about on Thursday. All right. So again, thanks to Grant. Thanks to everybody who logged in tonight. and hopefully we'll see you all on Thursday.
Good to see everybody.
You too.
Everybody have a good evening.
Okay, y'all too. However, if anybody needs anything.
You do the same. All right. Thank you.